What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we've got some awesome topics for you guys, but before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe if you're someone new and you enjoy daily RPG, Nintendo gaming, and live streams. Now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into it. We've got Monolith Soft, one of our favorite development studios over here on PlayerEssence, and I asked you guys on the community page what you would like to see next from Monolith Soft, and here were the results of the poll. We've got at 28% Xenoblade Chronicles 3, so a true successor slash follow-up to the original Xenoblade 1 and 2. After that, at 32%, we've got Xenoblade Chronicles X Port and or Xenoblade Chronicles X2. Now, this is the original Wii U game that people want ported over. And also, if you've played the game and you've beat it, then you probably want a sequel to it as well. So I can see why people would want that with 32% of the vote. I mean, that game is huge. It's awesome. There's mechs. It's a really cool game. And it's actually one of the most impressive games, period, to me. In my opinion, one of the most impressive just games in general because of everything that it managed to do on the Wii U. Insane how they got that working. Then in at number 1 with 40% of the vote is a brand new IP. Now, I wanted to get into some of your comments on the community page before I talk about this and what we could realistically see next from Monolith Soft based on some of the information that I've been reporting on for a while now. So Lan Hikari says, honestly, any of them, it doesn't matter to me. I'll gobble it all up the same. And I think that there's so many people that share that same sentiment. I know I do. Like, it doesn't matter what they do. Give me X2, give me Xenoblade Chronicles X Port and fixing some of the issues because of the Wii U gamepad and all that. Give me a new IP that's from Monolith Soft. Give me Xenoblade 3. I don't care what it is, as long as Monolith Soft is at the helm killing it with the RPG goodness, man, I am down for whatever. Now, the next comment we're going to get into is from Ian Cole, and he says, I've been eager to see their new IP for about 2 years now. And yes, I've been very eager to see their new IP as well. And I think that a lot of people, which the majority of people here, at least based on this poll, it was very close, but 40% of people said yes. Give me that new IP. And I think that there's good reason to think that is coming. Now, the next comment that I want to get into is from Lex Graham. And he says, I'm conflicted. Well, I would love to see a new IP with the Switch surging in sales and brand awareness. I think this would be a perfect time to do a Xenoblade Chronicles X2. So nice little mix here. We got some people saying brand new IP. We've got some people saying, hey, I'll take anything. We got one person saying, hey, you know what? Let's get this X2 and kind of take advantage of the Nintendo Switch and the surging sales. It completely makes sense. Like, I see pretty much where everybody's coming from with some of these answers here. And yes, I would love a Xenoblade Chronicles X2, but I think that if you do an X2, I guess you don't necessarily have to have the X on the Switch, but it would obviously be beneficial. Whereas with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, or more like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, yes, they didn't have one on the Switch at the time that it was coming out, but people had it on the Wii, you had it on the Wii U. I mean, there were multiple systems that the game was on, and also the new Nintendo 3DS where people had ample opportunity to play it. Whereas with Xenoblade Chronicles X, it was only on the Wii U and never re-released in any way, shape, or form at this point. So yeah, it would make sense that they'd have to bring over both of them in a pair. And the last comment that I'm going to get into is a little bit interesting, but I still want to read it off. And Aaron G says, honestly, I want more Baten Kaitos. Either a remaster or a new game would be epic. And you know what? Baten Kaitos would be absolutely incredible. It's a turn-based RPG, card-based RPG that was on the GameCube, and it's really good. There's 2 games. I love both of them. Voice acting's a little bit sketchy, but the gameplay is top-notch. Monolith Soft knows exactly what they're doing in various different areas when it comes to the RPG genre, and the only problem would be that you would need Bandai Namco for that one, from what I understand, and there would have to be some type of collaboration or something with the Baten Kaitos. I'm just not sure they can just resurrect it out of nowhere, so that would be the issue. But otherwise, yeah, man, I agree with you. Baten Kaitos would be absolutely awesome. I guess that wouldn't necessarily be a new IP, or it's not Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but hey, it's still Monolith Soft and you'd like to see it, so I respect the answer there. But let's talk about this. What is next? What is realistic for Monolith Soft? And my pretty much not final answer, but what I think we can kind of go in detail a bit more focused based on what we've talked about before, Yes, I do think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or the next Xenoblade will happen at some point. Yes, I think that's a thing. Yes, I do think Monolith Soft will have Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Nintendo Switch, but I don't know about an X2 at this point. Where I think it's leaning towards in terms of what they have next, what I want next, and what they will have next is a brand new IP. We've heard about this fantasy IP for quite some time now. We've seen the drawings. They put that out there for a reason, to kind of dangle that fruit, that carrot in front of the fans right there, to expect maybe something a little bit different than what they've gotten before. And I think that this is where Monolith Soft takes the next step. Now, they had tremendous success with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. They got Pirate and Mithra in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which Nintendo put that in there. Shout outs to Nintendo for that one. They've had a lot of good stuff. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition has sold over 1.4 million units. So things are going well in the land of Monolith Soft. Things are going well with them. I think this would be the perfect opportunity, in my opinion, to introduce people to something a little bit different. The people that just say, oh, they see Xenoblade and like, okay, well, I don't like that. Okay, well, let's try something new. Let's try something different. Let's kind of move out of the realm maybe of like the auto battling and stuff like that and make a true action RPG. Or maybe they even go back to turn-based. I'm not really sure what they're going to do with this new IP, but I want to see fresh ideas. I want to see something new, and I want to see Monolith Soft kind of flex their muscle as they've actually added quite a number of new people to the staff. Now, all those people aren't going to be working on this new IP or what's going on here because they have support studios that help out with The Legend of Zelda and Animal Crossing and various other Nintendo games, but that Monolith Soft team won it. That main team with Takahashi and everything, they've been hard at work at something, and I think that they want to reveal it like they revealed Xenoblade Chronicles X. I remember back when they were talking about that game, they were just speaking so highly about what they want to do. I remember them saying that they want to create the interactive and huge experiences like Bethesda makes, maybe without all the bugs and all that, right? Of Nintendo, right? They want to be that type of game. And if you look at it, there's a lot of cool things in terms of where they kind of elaborated on that when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles X. So I feel with this new game, they kind of want to take things to the next level, the next step of Monolith Soft, and having a game that performs a bit better when it comes to the resolution and to the graphics and to what people can do. You can market it a little bit more. Maybe it's more of the fantasy style and not so much Xenoblade style, right, from the artwork that they showed off. I feel that there's definitely a bit of smoke there to kind of see maybe what they're going to be doing. And I'm hoping and I'm thinking with this Mitsuda recording that we did talk about before on the channel, he's recording something big. He's the Xenoblade guy. He's the Monolith Soft music type of person. He's recording something, right? And he blurred out some of the artwork there so we couldn't see it. I do think that it could be for a new IP, and we're going to see that this year, but I could be completely wrong. We could maybe see something else. Maybe it's a new Xenoblade, or maybe it's an X2, or maybe it's just something else from Monolith Soft. But either way, I know I'm excited for it. So what are your thoughts when it comes to Monolith Soft and what they're going to do next? I would love to hear what you have to say in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic. Square Enix Presents going down today. I'm live streaming it on the channel, depending on when you're watching it. You can watch the replay if you didn't catch it live, but it's at 10 a.m. PT. That is 1 p.m. Eastern time. I'm really looking forward to streaming this. Don't expect anything crazy though. I'm not going to be doing any predictions because they already gave us a list of stuff to expect, which you guys can see on the screen. But just know that I will be streaming it, and we are going to be checking out to see if there's like Tomb Raider or something for the Nintendo Switch, or if there's some other cool announcements there. Now let's get into some of this Final Fantasy VII news, because we've got news on Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, and we've also got news on Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, or Final Fantasy Ever Crisis, the mobile game, and what's going down there. So Square Enix has updated us with a bunch of information. And if you want to get every bit of information, you can definitely check out the link in the description. I wanted to go over some of the highlights. Now, there are new materia and summons for the episode featuring Yuffie. Now, due to the nature of the upgrade system, it resulted in us having to label the new Yuffie sections as downloadable content. However, the original intent was to create a PS5 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake and not to produce downloadable content. Accordingly, we do not have any plans for downloadable content at this time. Sorting out the development environment on PS5 for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade meant that moving on to developing the sequel was much smoother. We are now prioritizing the roadmap for completing the next game, so if we do need to think about more downloadable content, then we'll probably come after that is finished. And that is very good information because they are full steam ahead on this new Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, and it's interesting to say that they wanted to have this just be the PS5 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake, as in this is the version of the game with the Yuffie stuff, so almost as if it's a separate game from Final Fantasy from Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PlayStation 4, but they couldn't do that, so it's downloadable content, but you kind of need a PS5 to play some of it. It is a bit confusing, but when you mention the fact that, hey, they wanted this to be the PS5 version of the game, it makes sense in that respect. Now, I did want to go over some Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis information, because this game is a bit polarizing and there's a lot to go over with this game. You will be able to play the chapters released for free. The monetized element is basically loot boxes containing random weapons. Some of the special weapons also come as a set that includes new costumes that were not in the original games, adding in a new way to enjoy the story that you won't have seen before. Next up is we are trying to fit the story of the original Final Fantasy VII into 10 chapters. To be a bit more specific, the team will escape from Midgar in Chapter 3. I think that should give you an idea of how much the other titles will cover as well. Now, there will be completely new original episodes. The first one will be the new episode we are working on that covers the story behind Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier. That was announced at the same time. The events of Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier take place around 30 years before Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis main story, and go into the founding of Soldier. So it goes without saying that you will see some of the legendary heroes in their younger days, as well as younger versions of the future Shinra executives and other characters who will appear in the Final Fantasy VII Remake sequels. Now, the game has a story mode where you follow Cloud and the gang on their journeys, but also features special dungeons and battles that go outside of the timeline, delineated by various compilation titles. These will allow players to enjoy taking on the mightiest enemies from the series from their dream party in ways the story battles do not allow. So all the music is also based off the originals, but there's been some new arrangements for Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. They want people to enjoy the series in a multitude of different ways. It's not intended to be a replacement for the original Final Fantasy VII or remake or anything like that, but just a convenient and casual way to touch on the games. So this is interesting as well, because it's going to have microtransactions that also, you know, with weapons and all that. And I understand what they're trying to do. I get Square Enix, obviously, they're making it free, mobile. Everybody has a smartphone, best way to kind of get people to get into your game. Like, I understand that, but man, I wish there was a way for this to actually have like normal button controls and be on a console. I think that this is a great idea when it comes to it, but having it only on mobile to start out here is just the no bueno from me. And I'm not sure if there's going to be like controller support for it, but those are always so jank on mobile since they build the whole touch interface and everything. So you combine with the microtransactions and all of that with it being mobile, and it just has me not as excited to play it. I will check it out just because it looks really cool, and I think that it's a good way to kind of do this, but I just wish that it was on multiple platforms and not just relegated to mobile. And I'd rather just pay for the game if I could, then have to worry about, okay, you have these weapon sets and all this, like the Genshin Impact type of thing, but with weapons instead of with the characters. So it's not a no for me completely, because I'll check it out. The chapters are free, but it's not something that I'm going to be jumping for joy and super excited about based on these details with how the structure of the game works. But that's just my thought on it. What do you guys think about all this different information here? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.